guys, it's Yoshi Shiraki and we are here, we're back with a brand new video. It's been a long time, but here's the situation. Trevor went and got a haircut recently. It was a little bit longer. And as you can see, they cleaned up his neck. They kind of made his sideburns a little bit crooked on both sides. And there's just not a lot of style to this haircut. So we were chatting and I said, you know what? I will fix it up. And that kind of gave me an idea that I wanted to start creating a show. I've been tossing around a couple names like Fixer Upper or Fix My Do, but I'm asking you guys if you could please help me come up with a new name for a new show where the concept of the show is I take somebody who got a haircut that they're not happy with and then I give them a makeover and kind of give that hair a little bit more life, a little bit more style. So if you can, in the comment section below, please start writing some ideas of a cool name of a show where I start doing makeovers on people who got a bad haircut and then we do a makeover to make it a good haircut. So this is the first episode of whatever we're going to call this show and you guys are going to help me name that. So on that note, let's dive into Trevor's hair. What I'm thinking is I want to take the sides down even tighter. I want to do a much closer tight look here. We're going to leave some length at the top, probably a little bit of texture, but I'm going to save the top for last because that's where I'm going to play with the hair. That's where I'm going to kind of be creative with the hair. But in the meantime, I definitely know I want to take the sides tight. So I'm going to focus right now on getting the sides and the back short, and then we'll save the top for last. So let's dive into this. All right, so what I did is I sectioned off the top so that we can tuck the top away for later. We're going to focus on making this fun. We're going to give it some texture. But we're going to take the sides and the back short. As you can see, as I spin Trevor around, we've sectioned both sides up and over so that we don't accidentally cut the top because I do want to keep that length because I haven't officially decided what I'm going to do with it yet up here. We might leave it disconnected, we might connect it, but by tucking it away at the top, it allows me to decide later. Oftentimes I'll do a haircut and based off of what I start to see form here will inspire what I'll do there. So we're going to start basically here at the sides. I'm going to use my fingers to first eliminate a lot of the weight. So we're going to take the first section right above the ear and then I'm going to work forward and then go back to the ear and work backward. So as I mentioned, I'm going to go ahead and do this first section through my hands and then working my way forward. And I'm ever so slightly just over directing the hair to the previous section, the section that I had just cut. Now I'm working towards the front hairline and up here at the hairline. And now that I've done that, I'll take a peek at what it's starting to look like. Right here I'm just taking down the sideburns a little bit shorter. They were left a little bit long. They were also cut a little bit crooked. Okay, and now I'm back to the point where I'm at the very first section. So you'll notice, because of the size of my fingers, I first cut this first half, the top half of the head, and then I came back and cut the bottom half. So now we'll go ahead and clean through here, but also work through the back, establish the weight of where I want it to be. Okay, so you can see that from this point, our very first section, I'm starting to work in panels all the way to the back. And I'll stop here halfway and then start on the other side. So let's continue. Okay, so what I've done is I've gone through now and I've trimmed away the hair from the right side and the back side, the back right side, just as short as my fingers can go. Depending on how big your fingers how big your fingers are, let's say if you're a petite young lady, you're probably going to have smaller fingers, and when you do the haircut with your fingers, it's going to be shorter than, let's say, a guy with bigger fingers. So this is as short as my fingers could take it. And I'm always curious just kind of to see how that looks, how this particular length looks before I start going into it more with scissor-over-comb or clippers. But now that I've done this side, we're going to go to the left side, work our way from the front to the back, and then at that point we'll dive into the scissor-over-comb, or like I said, maybe we'll just dive right into the clippers. Alright, so now what I've done is I've actually gone through and cut both sides and the back. I decided I'm going to do scissor-over-comb. We could take the clippers to the head, and if that's something you want to do, you definitely can. It's obviously a lot quicker, but in this particular case, I wanted to continue the haircut using scissor-over-comb. I think it'd be fun to show, fun to share. I like to think of scissor-over-comb as something similar to sculpting clay, like an individual who sculpts clay into a statue. They usually chisel little by little pieces away so that they can kind of see how the shape is forming. So scissor-over-comb is a lot more like that for me, where I get to see how the shape is forming, alter it, change it, continue with what I'm doing as I go through the haircut. With scissor-over-comb, it's important to stay organized and in panels. So I like to start with the front panel and work in panels all the way around the head. I oftentimes see people who are learning scissor-over-comb just go all over the place. They'll start here, they go here, then they're back over here again. And it starts to become very overwhelming. It's a very tedious technique. But if you work in panels and get this section down, and then the next section down, and the next section down, it starts to form easily, and you're only approaching the head in little sections at a time. So it starts to make it less overwhelming. You're not scissor-over-combing this entire head. You're perfecting this piece first, and once that piece is perfected, then you move on to the second piece, and you do it in little pieces. Before you know it, you're going to be all the way around the head and done. So in my opinion, when it was shared with me when I was first learning scissor-over-comb, that was what helped me take it in panels. Really make sure this panel looks good before you move on to the next panel. It doesn't mean that you can't come back and change your mind and take it a little tighter, but by doing it in panels, it just keeps you organized and not overwhelmed with this tedious technique on the whole entire head. So, all right, let's dive into this. So I'm going to start right here over the ears. You can see the person who cut Trevor's hair left a lot of this hair right around the ears. They cut a nice diagonal line right here, and they cleaned his neck, but they, for some reason, did not clean around his ear. We're going to take those little wispies away. Okay. So as I mentioned before, I like to start with the panel right above the ear because that is the widest part of the head. So the widest part of the head is in two spots. Here, on both sides, and the nose and the occipital bone. That's officially, typically, the widest part of a human's face. The second widest is ear to ear. From here to the nose, it tapers inward. So again, this is why I'm calling this the widest part of the head that we're cutting. And then again, back here in the occipital bone, but we're not cutting the nose, of course. So I'm going to work from here and work my way forward. Okay, so as you can see, I've worked the scissor-over-comb forward. We're going to have to take this hair down around the sideburn area a little bit shorter. I'm going to use a smaller tooth comb to do that, but I'm basically working in panels. We worked upwards here, and now we're working our way to the back. Actually, I should say we started here, then worked this panel, and now we're going towards the back. Alright, so as you can see now, I'm just carrying the scissor-over-comb towards the back behind the ear. I'm going to work my way all the way around the head. And there's a couple ways you could do scissor-over-comb. You can work from the side to the back middle, and then the other side to the back middle, and meet in the back of the middle of the head. Or you can just go in one fluid motion all the way around. It's a personal preference. I personally like to go all the way around and keep the scissor-over-comb flowing in one motion from me personally, the right side of the head working to the left side of the head. So it's one of those things that's just maybe being right-handed. I like to start on the right, kind of working my way to the left. One of those personal things that I think works better for me, but of course you're going to have to play with it and find out what works best for you. Okay, so as you can see, now we're working our way all the way around the head. As you're working your scissor-over-comb and panels, don't forget to also check the profile, as well as checking the front, as well as checking the back. You want to make sure the back is balanced as well. So as I look in the mirror, I can see if it's imbalanced, unbalanced, or balanced. Now, I'm working on this last panel right here. And one of the things that are difficult, especially for a guy typically with bigger hands, we've got bigger knuckles that get in the way, is scissor overcombing here because of the ear. My knuckles can't come into this position because individual people have ears. And so one of the things that you can do is go from this to this. Just kind of turn your hand upside down, and that'll allow you to scissor over comb this hairline here without having to worry about bumping into the ear and accidentally clipping it or cutting it. And then once you come above the ear, then you can go back into your normal scissor over comb position. So kind of just a little tip on different ways you can hold your hands while doing scissor over comb. Another place that you'll need to use this sometimes, and I forgot to show it earlier, is behind the ear, because again, because of the ear, I can't get in here. So as I'm coming here, I can turn my hand upside down and then cut behind the ear on this panel right here. So don't be afraid to turn your hand upside down, maneuver it however you need to be able to fit and get into the position that you're going to need to get into to be able to scissor over comb. So now, basically, I've gone through and taken the hair as short as this comb will allow me to. So now, what I want to do is go to a finer tooth comb. Oftentimes these are referred to as barbering combs, because I want to be able to get the hairline a lot shorter. Now, I, in this particular example, wanted to show step by step how to scissor over comb using these panels one comb at a time. Typically, I'm usually holding two combs at the same time. Usually a smaller tooth comb and the larger tooth comb. And I'm holding one comb down here, okay, just like that, and I'm holding this comb here. The reason I do that is, I just want to share this, I didn't do it in this occasion because I wanted to show you one comb at a time, but the reason I do that is I'd actually do this whole panel completely. So let's say that I cut this panel, but now I need to cut this hairline, then I have both combs in my hand and I can kind of just switch them out. So in this particular case, I can address the hairline here by using the smaller tooth comb, okay, and getting all this hair off. And then if I have to go back to address something there, I just switch them out. And I just very easily can kind of switch my combs. And it saves me time than having to go back and forth and back and forth. And so I'll usually hold two combs. Sometimes I may even hold three combs if I want one that's kind of a in between. So this is a thicker tooth comb, kind of a medium, and a fine tooth comb. So in some cases I'll hold two combs if I'm working multiple shapes. It's just very similar if you're thinking about using clippers. You put on guards, you put on different types of guards to take the hair down little by little. You got the bigger guard, the medium guard, the small guard, same kind of concept. I'm just holding them in my hand. It saves me time to not have to put them back. I'm going to do the rest of this holding these two combs just so you can kind of see how I do it throughout the haircut. So in a normal scenario, I'm typically holding more than one comb at a time. Okay, so one thing that I wanted to share with you is you've got the fine tooth comb, which is typically the shortest that you can take hair with a comb. However, let's say that we wanted to kind of soften this line right here, I've been using this fine tooth comb, and this is as short as I can get it. So it's softened the line pretty good. But if I put the scissor flat against the skin, in this particular case, if I put the scissor flat against Trevor's skin, that's pretty much going to cut it bald. However, if I take the scissor and slightly angle it, okay, so this is pretend this is Trevor's face. This is flat. If I take my scissor and slightly angle it outwards, then I'm creating ever so slightly right here a fade, like a very small graduated fade. And so if I wanted to kind of soften that, again, I don't want to put my scissors flat against the skin. I'm kind of going to lean them out and just soften the outline right here, just so it eliminates kind of a hard hairline in this particular case. And I can also kind of just follow the hairline with the point of the scissor. And again, my scissors are not flat against his skin. They're slightly angled, so I'm doing a very minute graduated fade right at the hairline. But I'm just softening Trevor's hairline right here, working my way from here all the way down to here. So you can see it's just very tiny cuts. And then I can go back again and use the fine tooth comb if I need to get any more of a blend from the hairline to the actual body of the hair. So you can also, don't be afraid to cut the hair without a comb, but you have to be very conscientious of the angle of the scissor. If you're just going to put it flat, you're going to cut a hard line. You might as well take a clipper and make a hard line. And if that's what you want, then that's great. But if you're trying to do a blended kind of a faded outline, then you don't want to be flat, you want to be angled. So I'm going to go around the hairline here and kind of angle it out. And you can see we eliminated that hard line that was cut at a diagonal when Trevor had a previous haircut. It's now gone. So now we're going to do that around the back. As I'm going to use this fine tooth comb to eliminate this hair, but then I'll probably do a little bit of cutting without the comb. Alright, so now what I'm basically doing is using the fine tooth barbering comb, the really small teeth on that comb, to go around the hairline of Trevor's head. So we basically started off at the sideburn, then worked our way around the ear. Now we're working our way behind the ear, and then of course at the very bottom of the hairline. Now remember, Trevor had a haircut just before he had this haircut, and so his neck is already clean. The previous hairstylist cleaned Trevor's neck with the clippers, of course, so there's no hair there. So now what we're doing is basically just fading out and eliminating the hard line that the previous stylist created, because Trevor didn't want a hard line. He wanted more of a blended, kind of a faded out hairline. So we're just going to work our way around the head. Again, as I mentioned before, I like to work from the right side to the left side and kind of flow all the way around. So we're just going to carry that process all the way around the head till we get to his left sideburn. Okay, so you can see I've kind of gone all the way around the head. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I've kind of switched combs throughout it. But I wanted to save this hairline for last. So you can see we've taken it down pretty tight using the fine tooth comb. But I want to take it even closer. And there's something that I wanted to share with you, which is why I've saved this. You could definitely do it with a clipper. There's no question. That's the easiest, fastest way to do it. And if you're in a salon atmosphere, easy and fast is the best way, because in essence, you've got other clients waiting, and time is money, and so you don't want to be running behind. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to go ahead and share with you what I like to do if by chance I don't have clippers handy. So I'm going to use the scissors to basically do what I would do with clippers. But one of the things that we want to be careful of is we don't want to cut the skin. So I'm going to come through and, without a comb, cut this hair right here by putting my scissor flat on Trevor's skin, and at some points where I want it to be softer, I'm going to angle. So this is, let's say this is the head. I'm going to go flat here where I want it to be completely short and bald, and then I'm going to angle it where I want to have some graduation. So to make sure I don't cut his skin, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put his head down so it pulls the skin tighter. Okay, if his head's up, and you'll see this more with older people when they have wrinkly skin, then you're more likely to accidentally cut them. But with younger skin, you want to pull the head down, and then you're going to even pull with your finger the skin tighter. Okay, so right here, I've got the scissors flat against Trevor's skin. Okay, and I'm pulling down wherever I want to cut the hair short, or basically cut it off is what I'm doing right here. And so when I come over here, then I'm going to tilt his head that way so it pulls this skin. And then again, I'm going to take my finger and pull it tight. And this is typically not a technique that I'm going to take the tedious time to do unless I don't have clippers. But since I'm not in a rush, and occasionally you're giving somebody a haircut, maybe at your house or your friend's house, and you don't have clippers, this is a way that you can get around that. Or maybe you're at the salon and your clippers break. You probably have somebody you could borrow clippers from, but in case you didn't, this is one way to get the hair bald at the neck. And basically we already kind of went over this at the hairline, at the sideburn hairline. Same thing, just put the scissor flat against the skin or slightly angle it for some graduation. So this hair right here reaches into the comb. So I'm going to continue to use the comb. Okay. And a great way to practice this technique, if you're worried about cutting somebody because you've never done this technique before, which would not be nice to cut someone's neck or face doing their sideburn. Great way to practice this is to cut your own hair on your arm. So let's see, I just blocked the light. So take your scissor and start cutting. Crank your wrist so it pulls the skin tight, and then you can start cutting all the hair on your arm or your wrist. And you can kind of see, you can kind of experiment how flat you can put your scissor against your skin and it still won't cut you. If you wrinkle your skin, then that's when I'm gonna, cut a chunk into my wrist, which I don't want to do. So practice on your own arm, on your own wrist, kind of pull it straight, and start to understand the angle of a scissor, how you can put it flat, it still won't cut it, angling it to kind of soften and graduate the tiny bit of hairline that you've got going on right there. So let's continue. Okay, so now, as you can see, we've kind of completed the sides and back. Now, what I want to do is remove these clips up here at the top and kind of start to decide what we're going to do here up at the top. So I'm going to take a water bottle, kind of wet this down, kind of see what kind of length we have here to play with, how long we want to leave the top. So let's do that now. Maybe even leave this disconnected from here, maybe not. But let's take a peek now, kind of see what we've got. What I'm thinking right now is I do like a little bit of length because it allows the hair to have texture. When you cut the hair really short, it's hard to create any texture. You can't put any pomade and style it because it's really short. Obviously this is super short, but with the top, if we take it too short, you eliminate the possibility of giving the individual the opportunity to create texture with products depending on how they want to dress the hair. So in that particular case, we're going to kind of just take this down little by little. And I'm actually kind of thinking that we might do something up here a little asymmetric. The theory of hair is short hair pushes long hair. So if you want hair to go in a certain direction, it's typically a good idea to cut hair shorter to longer in the direction you want it to go. So for instance, we're going to create a shape that's going to work with the direction Trevor's hair already grows. And in the front, it's already growing left. So we're going to work with that, do a little bit of an asymmetric shape, leaving it a little bit longer on the right, but cutting a little bit shorter on the left. So, I'm going to take this hair right here and create my guide. And make sure that we have a good length right here. And I definitely want to take it down, but I also want to make sure I leave some length. I'm going to turn Trevor around so you can see what I'm doing. Definitely want to see some length up here at the top. Okay. So now that I know I like the length at the top of the head, the highest point, I'm going to work my way forward to the front of the head. And I can adjust the length around the face to a good length that I like without having to worry about the top of the head being too short because I started there. I created my guide there. Okay, so this centerpiece now is my guide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that as my guide, but we talked about doing something asymmetric here, so we're going to do something a little bit fun, a little bit different. One of the things that we have to play with is how much asymmetric of an angle do we create. So I don't know if you could see my hands, but they're not square. And typically, most gentlemen's haircuts are going to be square across the top. It's going to appear square with some slight asymmetric angle to it, but I have to play with it because I'm not sure how severe I want the asymmetric. So what we do is we go one section at a time, kind of play with it, take a peek at it, just like somebody who's sculpting a statue. They take little sections at a time, take a peek at it, see if they like it. If not, they keep removing more clay until it forms the shape that they're looking for. Okay, so again, you can see my guide right here, which was the original guide that I cut going this way. So now, I know that's my guide, and from there, I know if I use that guide, I've got the right length at the top, and again, just angling my fingers downwards, leaving the right side a little bit longer. There's my guide. You can see the shape is pushing this way. It's shorter here, longer here, but I'm going to blend through here. So let's go ahead and do that. And you can see right here, here's the disconnection. So again, just right above the ear, I'm going to take this section and blend the sides with the top. Okay, and I'm just working my way back, blending the top, the back. Okay, and now I'm going to do the same. Now, as I move forward, I do want to leave this length here at the front. So one of the things that I will do sometimes is blend the top with the side from the ear back. And sometimes I'll leave the side to the top from the ear forward disconnected from here, just because I do like a little bit of texture right here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn Trevor back to the mirror so I can kind of decide how much length and disconnection I want to leave from here to here. If it looks good, if it doesn't look good, then I got to keep taking it down. So this is a visual. This is where, again, visual comes into effect. So I actually do like what I'm seeing, but I'm going to just trim it a little bit, and a little bit at a time, leaving it slightly disconnected. Okay, so now is what I'll do is I'll twist the top, or twist wherever you want to create this texture. And you're going to take the blade, and you're not going to close it all the way because you're going to cut the hair short. You're going to start at the bottom and just work your way up to the top. Okay, so, and you can, slowly cut little pieces off. What you've done is you've wound up the hair, and now you're working your way up from short to long. So there's all these little short hairs now pushing long hair all throughout. And that's what's going to give the hair texture. Opposed to, a lot of people just have perfectly straight hair, and it looks perfectly straight. Well, sometimes you want to add texture to that. This is one of my favorite ways that I like to add texture. So I do it in sections. We're going to go in panels, starting here at the top, then here at the left, at the right, and then another one, and then doing it in panels on this side as well. So we're going to start from the back and work to the front, twisting the hair up, starting at the bottom, slowly creating tiny little hairs by just ever so slightly closing the blade, but not all the way. So let me go ahead and do this. And this is still visual as well. You have to be very aware of your client's hair texture, the amount of hair they have. If an individual, let's say, has thin hair on top, maybe they're kind of balding, maybe they just have thin hair, they're not balding. This might not be something that you want to do too much of, because if their hair is thinning, you really don't want to take a lot of hair away, because then it's just going to make it look thinner. So again, it's very visual. You're going to look at the places that you think you want to create texture, maybe a place that's really thick, and implement this technique. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put some product into the hair, kind of see how it looks, and then reassess it one last time after the product's in. I'm going to be putting in some craft clay. Me personally, I like this type of pomade because it's a dry pomade. There's different types of pomades, obviously, as you know. Some are more wet, some are dry. I like the pomades that leave the hair looking more on the drier side versus pomades that are looking more on the wet side. Alright, so now I'm just going to work the pomade into the hair, kind of mess it around. And one of the things that I like to do is I'll twist the hair, and that's what kind of creates texture, right? So if you basically kind of twist the hair like this, that's how you're going to create texture. So you can move the hair around, get the pomade into the hair, and then kind of just twist it in spots where you'd like to see texture. Here's the front. We can see we left it disconnected. I like that because it leaves these a little bit longer. Like I said, he could always push it up if he wants. He could stick it out. It just gives the hair, it just gives the opportunity to play a little bit more with the hair. But that side's blended. This side's got some disconnection. We actually didn't even use clippers. Like I said before, you definitely can. It's much quicker. But for the sake of this video, we just wanted to demonstrate that you can definitely fade a hairline out even if you don't have clippers. So, on that note, this video is done. Don't forget to add a comment down below of haircuts that you'd like to see in the future. On that note, I will see you guys later.